There are certain names that feel like they echo through time, not just because of the fame they earned, but because of the dignity they carried while earning it. Harry Belafonte was one of those rare souls. To call him a singer would be to ignore the revolution in his voice. To call him an actor would be to overlook the courage in his heart. And to call him an activist would be to miss the art that fueled his purpose. Belafonte wasn't one thing. He was everything, all at once, in a world that wasn't ready for any of it. Born Harold George Belafonte Jr. in Harlem in 1927, his story began far from the spotlight. His mother was a Jamaican domestic worker, his father a Martiniquan chef who spent most of his time at sea. When his parents separated, young Harry was sent to live with his grandmother in Jamaica, a time that shaped his identity more deeply than he ever realized. He grew up surrounded by the music and rhythm of the Caribbean, by voices that told stories through melody. When he eventually returned to New York, he carried that island fire with him, the rhythm of struggle, the poetry of hope. But Belafonte's road to greatness didn't start with glamour. In post-war New York, he worked odd jobs, sweeping floors and running errands. One night, while working as a janitor's assistant, he was given tickets to a theater performance. That moment changed everything. Sitting in that dark room, watching actors bring life to words, Belafonte felt something stir inside him. He knew somehow that this was what he was meant to do. To tell stories, to move hearts, to turn pain into art. So he joined the dramatic workshop of the New School for Social Research, where his classmates included a young Marlon Brando and Tony Curtis. Imagine that, a poor Jamaican kid sitting among the future legends of Hollywood, all with the same dream burning in their eyes. Then came the music. In the 1950s, America was still racially divided, but there was a hunger in the air for something new, something soulful, something human. Belafonte stepped into that moment with a sound that was completely his own. His Calypso rhythms, drawn from his Caribbean roots, were joyful yet defiant. His 1956 album Calypso became the first LP in history to sell over 1 million copies. 1 million. It was a phenomenon. The song Day-O, the Banana Boat song, became an anthem, not just for its infectious energy, but for what it represented, the dignity and humor of workers, the voice of the people. That call of daylight come and me one go home echoed across America, across oceans, across generations. But fame didn't soften him, it sharpened him. Belafonte had tasted poverty, racism, and rejection. And he wasn't about to use his platform just to sing. He wanted justice. In the early 1960s, while most entertainers stayed silent, he stood beside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and helped fund the civil rights movement. He didn't just write checks. He organized marches, bailed activists out of jail, and used his home as a meeting space for leaders. When King needed support, Belafonte was there, loyal, fearless, and unshakably committed. He once said, "Artists are the gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's radical voice," and he lived by those words. Hollywood, however, didn't make it easy. Even at the height of his fame, Belafonte faced the same barriers that his friend Sidney Poitier did, studios that refused to cast black actors as romantic leads, executives who wanted his voice but not his power. Yet Belafonte broke those barriers with elegance and intellect. In 1957's Island in the Sun, he played a character involved in an interracial romance, a move so controversial that some theaters refused to show the film. But Belafonte didn't back down. He wasn't in Hollywood to play it safe. He was there to change the narrative. And he did again and again. In Carmen Jones, 1954, opposite Dorothy Dandridge, he brought fire and charisma to the screen. In Odds Against Tomorrow, 1959, he took on the complexity of race relations in America long before it was mainstream to do so. But even when the camera stopped rolling, he stayed committed to the cause. He often criticized Hollywood for its hypocrisy, for claiming to love diversity while quietly maintaining walls of exclusion. He said things others were too afraid to say. That was Belafonte's gift. He could be charming one moment and revolutionary the next. As time passed, Belafonte expanded his reach beyond entertainment. He became a UNICEF ambassador, a humanitarian, and a global activist. In the 1980s, when famine struck Africa, He helped organize We Are the World, bringing together artists to raise millions for relief efforts. It wasn't just about charity, it was about unity, about proving that art could change lives. He often said that his mentor, Paul Robeson, taught him that the role of an artist is not just to entertain, but to advocate for justice. And Belafonte carried that torch until his final days. He also wasn't afraid to challenge power, even when it made people uncomfortable. He criticized American presidents, both Republican and Democrat, for what he saw as hypocrisy in matters of race and foreign policy. He called out the entertainment industry for commodifying Black culture while ignoring Black voices. Some thought he was too outspoken, but Belafonte didn't care about comfort. He cared about truth, and even in his 80s and 90s, he never stopped raising that truth like a banner. What made Harry Belafonte so extraordinary wasn't just his voice or his fame. It was the grace with which he carried his anger, the beauty with which he expressed his defiance. He understood that art and activism weren't separate. They were two sides of the same heartbeat. He could sing Day-O with a smile and still remind you that behind every joyful rhythm was the story of struggle. He inspired generations, from Bob Dylan, who called him a mentor, to younger activists who saw in him a blueprint for courage. And through it all, he stayed grounded in love. Love for his people, love for humanity, love for justice. When Harry Belafonte passed away in 2023 at the age of 96, the world lost more than a performer. It lost a conscience. But in a way, he's still here, in every protest song, in every artist who uses their platform for truth, in every young person who believes that art can change the world. Because that's what Belafonte proved, that you can be both entertainer and activist, dreamer and fighter, that you can move the world with a song and heal it with a purpose. He once said, "Don't turn away from the noise of the world. Dive into it. That's where your voice matters most." And that's exactly what he did. Harry Belafonte didn't just make history, he sang it, he lived it, and he passed it down to us in melody and fire. In his later years, Belafonte watched as new generations took up the fight. Artists like Beyoncé, Kendrick Lamar, and John Legend, who blended art and activism much like he once did. He became a living bridge between eras, showing that dignity never goes out of style. He often reminded them that fame means nothing if it isn't used for something greater. And they listened, because when Harry Belafonte spoke, it wasn't as a celebrity, it was as a witness to history. When he smiled, it felt like sunlight breaking through decades of storm. When he spoke, you heard the weight of truth. His life was proof that courage could be elegant, that rebellion could sound like a song, and that a single voice, honest and unafraid, could echo far louder than an empire. Harry Belafonte didn't just change entertainment, he changed what it means to stand for something.